The stench of vomit and disinfectant still clung to my uniform when I pushed through our apartment door at 6:47 p.m., 3 hours earlier than usual. Another stellar day saving lives in downtown Detroit, if you could call pumping the stomach of a 19-year-old frat boy saving lives. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Julian Martinez, 30 years old, and I've been running emergency calls for Detroit Fire Department for 8 years. Not exactly the glamorous career my wife Talia had in mind when we got engaged, but hey, somebody's got to scrape people off the pavement while she's busy picking out $1,000 handbags. Julian? Talia's voice drifted from the kitchen, sharp with surprise. You're early. Double shift got cut short, I called back, kicking off my boots. Henderson covered the last. That's when I heard her mother's voice crackling through the speakerphone, crystal clear and venomous as always. Just keeping him around until something better comes along, sweetheart. You're 29, not 90. You don't have to settle for some burnt-out ambulance driver forever. I froze in the hallway, my hand still on the doorframe. Talia's laugh, that musical sound I used to love, cut through me like a scalpel. God, Mom, you're terrible. But you're not wrong. Julian's sweet, but he's basically just a placeholder until I find someone with actual money. Someone who doesn't come home smelling like other people's bodily fluids. Exactly! What about that real estate agent you mentioned? Brian something? Brian Kellerman. He drives a Tesla and just closed a $2 million deal downtown. We've been talking. Brian Kellerman. The golden boy of Detroit real estate, with his perfect teeth and designer suits. I'd met him at one of Talia's work functions. Smooth as silk and twice as fake. Well, don't wait too long, her mother continued. Men like that don't stay single forever. And Julian, well, bless his heart, but paramedics don't exactly scream husband material to women of quality. I stepped into the kitchen doorway. Talia sat at our granite breakfast bar, the one I'd worked overtime for 3 months to afford, her phone glowing between us like a smoking gun. Her face went white as fresh gauze. No need to wait, Talia, I said, my voice calm. I'm right here. She fumbled for the phone, but I was faster. 8 years of emergency response gives you quick reflexes. Mrs. Davidson, I said into the speaker, this is the placeholder. Just wanted to let you know your daughter's audition for Wife of the Year is over. She didn't get the part. I ended the call and tossed the phone onto the counter. It skittered across the granite and crashed into the wall. Talia's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping on dry dock. Julian, I can explain. Explain what? That I'm your backup plan? That you've been shopping for my replacement while I've been working 60-hour weeks to pay for this place? I gestured around our upscale apartment, with its exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Detroit River. Or maybe you want to explain why Brian Kellerman's name is in your mouth while you're wearing the engagement ring I saved 4 months to buy. Her recovery was swift. I'll give her that. The shock melted away, replaced by the cold calculation I'd been too blind to see before. Don't be dramatic, Julian. You knew what you were getting into when you proposed. I never pretended to be some starry-eyed romantic. No, but you pretended to love me. She shrugged, the gesture so casual it felt like a physical blow. I do love you, just not the way you need me to. My phone buzzed. A text from Sam Rodriguez, my partner at the firehouse, and the closest thing I had to a brother. Dude, you need to see this. Now. The attached photo was grainy, taken from across a parking garage, but clear enough. Talia and Brian Kellerman, wrapped around each other like teenagers, entering the lobby of the Renaissance Center's luxury condos. The timestamp read yesterday, 11:47 p.m., while I was working a double shift. I held up the phone. Funny thing about love, Talia. It usually doesn't involve sneaking around with real estate agents while your fiancé is saving lives. Her face crumpled, but I was done caring about her tears. "How long?" I asked. "Julian, how long?" "3 months." Her voice was barely a whisper. 3 months. While I'd been planning our wedding, picking out venues, tasting cakes, she'd been auditioning my replacement. The engagement ring on her finger, my grandmother's ring, reset with a bigger diamond, suddenly looked like a joke. "Pack your things," I said. "You've got 1 hour." "This is my apartment too." "Check the lease, sweetheart. My name, my credit, my problem." I pulled out my phone and started typing. "But don't worry about being homeless. I'm sure Brian's got room in that fancy condo." "What are you doing?" I hit send and smiled. "Sharing the good news with your family. Figured they'd want to know their little princess found her prince." Her phone, cracked but still functional, immediately started buzzing with notifications. Then buzzing turned to ringing as the family group chat exploded. "You didn't," she breathed. "Screenshots are forever, Talia, especially when they include audio recordings of mother-daughter heart-to-hearts about placeholder husbands." The color drained from her face as she realized I'd been recording since I walked into the kitchen. Her phone rang again, her sister this time. 59 minutes, I said, checking my watch. "Better start packing." 2 days later, I was sitting in Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar 3 blocks from the firehouse, nursing my 3rd beer and listening to Sam's latest theory about why all women were certifiably insane. "I'm telling you, Julian, it's something in the water. Makes them crazy after age 25. Like reverse puberty, but with more emotional terrorism." "Your wife's 28, Sam." "Exactly my point. Why do you think I work so many double shifts?" I almost smiled. Almost. "Talia moved in with Brian. Took half my furniture and all my dignity." "Good riddance to both. The furniture was ugly and your dignity was overrated." Sam signaled the bartender for another round. "Besides, you're better off without her. Trust me, I saw this coming a mile away." "You saw it coming?" "Brother, she looked at your paycheck the way most people look at expired milk, with disgust and the immediate need to throw it away." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Is this Julian Martinez, the paramedic who exposed his cheating fiancée?" I showed Sam the screen. "What the hell? Dude, you're famous. Check Facebook." I opened the app and nearly choked on my beer. The screenshots I'd sent to Talia's family had somehow made their way onto social media. The post, shared by Talia's cousin apparently, had been shared 847 times in 2 days. The comments were a mix of support for me and absolute savagery toward Talia. "Real men work honest jobs and deserve honest women. This girl is trash." Jennifer Walsh. "My husband's a firefighter, and I thank God for him every day. This woman doesn't deserve a hero." Michelle Torres. "Anyone know if this guy is single now? Asking for a friend." Ashley Chen. "This is insane," I muttered, scrolling through hundreds of comments. "This is opportunity," Sam corrected. "You're the good guy here, Julian. The hard-working hero who got screwed over by a gold-digging princess. That's pure social media gold." Another text. "This is Rebecca Martinez from Channel 7 News. We'd love to interview you about your story. Very sympathetic angle. The everyday hero betrayed by greed." "They want to interview me," Sam grinned. "Do it. But first, we need to make a stop." "Where?" "Kellerman's office. I have an idea." An hour later, we were parked outside Premier Realty, Brian's glass and chrome monument to his own ego. His white Tesla Model S sat in the reserved parking spot like a middle finger pointed at every working-class guy in Detroit. "This is stupid, Sam. This is justice. Besides, what's he gonna do? Call the cops and explain why his car got vandalized by the guy whose fiancée he stole?" Sam pulled a roll of bumper stickers from his jacket, the kind they sold at novelty shops. "Honk if you're sleeping with someone else's fiancée," in bright red letters. "Where did you even get those?" "Had them custom made. Amazing what you can order online these days." We slapped 6 stickers across Brian's pristine white paint job. Then Sam produced a valve stem tool and let the air out of all four tires. Childish, but effective, I admitted, feeling better than I had in days. Wait, it gets better. Sam pulled out his phone and started recording. This is for posterity. That's when Brian emerged from the building, probably heading to some overpriced lunch with another client. He stopped when he saw his car, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally recognition when he spotted us across the street. "Martinez!" he shouted, jogging toward us. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "Just admiring your ride," I called back. "Nice stickers. Really bring out the white. You're going to pay for this. Send me a bill, but you might want to call AA first. Looks like you've got a flat tire situation." Brian's face turned purple. "Talia told me about you. Said you were unstable. Guess she was right." That hit a nerve. "Funny, she told me you were just a client. Guess we're both learning new things about Talia. At least I can afford to take care of her properly. What were you going to give her, a lifetime of ramen noodles and thrift store jewelry?" Sam stepped forward, but I held him back. This was my fight. "I was going to give her honesty, Brian, but I guess that's not worth much in your market. Honesty doesn't pay for designer clothes and nice restaurants." "You're right. It doesn't. But it also doesn't leave you stranded in a parking lot with 4 flat tires and a car covered in truth stickers." I turned to walk away, then paused. "Oh, and Brian? You might want to check Talia's phone. She's got a few other clients she's been meeting with. Turns out I wasn't the only placeholder." The look on his face was worth every penny those stickers cost. The Channel 7 interview aired 3 days later, and my life officially went insane. Rebecca Martinez, no relation despite the name, was a sharp-eyed reporter in her 40s who specialized in human interest stories. She met me at the firehouse during shift change, cameras rolling as I climbed out of the ambulance after a call. "Julian Martinez has spent 8 years saving lives in Detroit," her voiceover began. "But when he came home early from a shift last week, he discovered the woman he planned to marry had been planning something entirely different." The interview was brutal in its simplicity. Rebecca let me tell the story straight, no dramatic music or fancy editing. Just a working-class guy explaining how his fiancée had been shopping for his replacement while he worked overtime to afford their life together. "What hurt the most," I told the camera, "wasn't that she didn't love me. It was that she saw me as disposable. Like 8 years of saving lives, of being a decent person, meant nothing because my paycheck wasn't big enough." "What's next for you?" Rebecca asked. "I keep doing my job, keep helping people, and maybe I find someone who values that instead of seeing it as a character flaw." The story went viral within hours. Her placeholder husband started trending on Twitter. My Facebook friend requests hit the maximum daily limit. 3 different women's magazines wanted to interview me about dating while blue-collar. But the real satisfaction came from watching Talia's world crumble. Her boutique, an upscale fashion store in Birmingham that catered to wealthy suburban housewives, started hemorrhaging customers. The same women who'd been liking her Instagram posts were now sharing articles about her betrayal of a local hero. Her boss, Margaret Winters, called me personally to apologize and distance the store from Talia's personal choices. "We had no idea about her character," Margaret said. "Premier Fashion has always supported first responders. We're actually planning a charity drive for the fire department's burn unit." "That's very generous," I replied, not mentioning that I'd suggested the idea when she called. Talia's mother, Linda Davidson, tried a different approach. She showed up at the firehouse on Thursday, dressed in her country club finest and carrying what looked like a prepared speech. "Julian, I owe you an apology," she began, her voice dripping with the kind of fake sincerity politicians use during election season. "I misspoke during that phone call. You're a wonderful young man, and Talia made a terrible mistake." "Which mistake would that be, Mrs. Davidson? Cheating on me, calling me a placeholder, or getting caught?" Her smile faltered. "People make errors in judgment. But destroying her reputation, her career, That's not the Christian thing to do. Neither is adultery. But here we are. You could fix this, Julian. A simple statement saying you've reconciled, that it was all a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding was me thinking your daughter had a soul. Sam, who'd been eavesdropping from the truck bay, chose that moment to walk over. Mrs. Davidson, saw you on the news. That interview where you called Julian unsuitable husband material really aged well. Her face went white. I never did any interview. Check Channel 4's website posted yesterday. Something about standing by your daughter's right to choose a better life. Pretty sure you mentioned Julian's limited prospects at least 3 times. She'd actually given that interview, apparently thinking it would help Talia's image. Instead, it made her look like an elitist monster and me look even more sympathetic. I should go, she muttered. Probably, I agreed. But Mrs. Davidson? Tell Talia I said thanks. For what? For showing me exactly who she really is before I wasted any more time. That evening, I got a text from Talia herself. We need to talk. This has gone too far. I replied, You're right. It should have stopped at cheating. But you kept digging. I never meant for any of this to happen. You meant all of it. You just didn't mean to get caught. Brian broke up with me. His clients are canceling contracts. My boss is talking about letting me go. You're ruining my life. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, I'm not ruining anything, Talia. I'm just not covering for you anymore. She didn't reply. But Brian did, 2 hours later. This needs to stop, Martinez. You've made your point. Have I? Because you're still driving around in a Tesla while I'm driving a 10-year-old Ford. Doesn't seem like justice to me. What do you want? I want you to understand what it feels like to lose something you care about. I already lost Talia. That's not what you care about, Brian. That's just what you thought you owned. The breaking point came on a Friday night at Rossetti's, an upscale restaurant in Royal Oak, where Talia and I used to celebrate anniversaries. I was there with Sam and 2 other guys from the firehouse, Mike Chen and Danny Walsh, having dinner and trying to pretend my life wasn't a social media circus. That's when Talia walked in with Brian and another couple I recognized from her fashion world. Derek and Amanda Morrison, both trust fund babies who'd never worked a real job in their lives. This is gonna be good, Sam muttered, following my gaze. They were seated 3 tables away, close enough that I could hear Amanda's voice carrying over the dinner conversation. I still can't believe you dated a paramedic, Talia. I mean, what did you even talk about? Bodily fluids and overtime pay? Derek laughed. At least she upgraded. Brian's got that new penthouse downtown, right? Much better than some apartment in Corktown. The apartment was actually nice, Talia said quietly. Nice for a public servant, Amanda corrected. But let's be honest, you were never going to build a real life with someone like that. You need a man who can match your ambition. That's when Brian decided to join the conversation. Julian's not a bad guy, just limited. Some people are meant to serve, others are meant to lead. Natural order. Mike Chen, who'd been quietly eating his pasta, suddenly stood up. Excuse me? The restaurant went quiet. Mike was built like a linebacker and had a voice that could cut through a hurricane. Did you just call my partner limited? Brian looked confused. I'm sorry, do we know each other? Mike Chen, Detroit Fire Department. I work with Julian. And I'm trying to figure out if you just insulted every first responder in this city or just the one whose fiancée you stole. Now wait a minute. No, you wait. Danny Walsh stood up too, all 6'4" of him. You think we're here to serve you? Think we're some kind of servant class? The entire restaurant was staring now. Talia looked mortified, Brian looked trapped, and their friends looked like they wanted to disappear. That's not what I meant, Brian stammered. Sure it is, I said, finally standing. It's exactly what you meant. Same thing Talia meant when she called me a placeholder. We're the help, right? The people who clean up your messes while you count your money. Julian, please, Talia whispered. Not here. Why not here? This is where you brought me to celebrate our first anniversary. Remember? You ordered the salmon, I had the steak, and you told me you loved how grounded I was. Guess that was code for poor. Amanda Morrison decided to escalate. Honestly, this is exactly why service workers shouldn't eat at places like this. No class. That did it. Sam threw his napkin on the table and walked over to their booth. Service workers? Lady, when your house is on fire, when your husband's having a heart attack, when your spoiled kids crash daddy's BMW, who do you think shows up? The country club? We pay taxes for that, Derek said weakly. You pay taxes for a lot of things you don't understand, Mike shot back. Like the difference between earning respect and buying it. The manager appeared, a nervous man in his 50s who clearly didn't want any part of this drama. Gentlemen, please, we're leaving, I said. But first, I want everyone here to meet Brian Kellerman and Talia Davidson. Brian's a real estate agent who specializes in stealing other men's fiancés. Talia is a fashion consultant who specializes in trading up when her current boyfriend's paycheck isn't big enough. You can't do this, Brian hissed. I'm not doing anything. I'm just introducing you to your community. These are your neighbors, Brian. The people whose houses you sell, whose trust you earn. They should know what kind of man you really are. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. Tell them what you told Talia about me. About how some people are meant to serve while others are meant to lead. Put that away. Tell them how you convinced my fiancé that 8 years of saving lives made me unsuitable husband material. Brian lunged for my phone, but Sam intercepted him, grabbing his wrist in a grip that made the real estate agent yelp. Assault! Brian shouted. You saw it! He assaulted me! I saw you try to destroy someone's property, said a woman at the next table. That's not assault. That's prevention. The crowd was turning, and Brian could feel it. These weren't his usual clients. They were working people, middle-class families, the kind of people who respected firefighters and paramedics. This is insane, Amanda Morrison said, standing up. Derek, we're leaving. Good idea, Danny Walsh agreed. Wouldn't want you to catch any working class from us. As they gathered their things, I made sure my voice carried across the restaurant. Talia, when you're looking for your next placeholder, maybe try dating in your own tax bracket. Save everyone the trouble. She looked up at me then, her eyes filled with tears that might have been real. I did love you, Julian. Maybe not the way you needed, but I did. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the safe choice, the backup plan, the guy who'd always be grateful just to be with you. But you never loved me. That's not true. If it wasn't true, we wouldn't be here. 3 weeks later, I was back to my normal routine, or as normal as life gets when you're a minor internet celebrity. The media attention had mostly died down, though I still got recognized at grocery stores and gas stations. People were supportive, but I was ready for the whole thing to be over. That's when I learned about the charity gala. Premier Fashion is hosting a fundraiser for the Children's Hospital, Sam told me, reading from his phone. Guess who's organizing it? Please tell me it's not Talia Davidson, attempting her comeback tour. Local businesswoman raises money for sick kids. Very classy rehabilitation strategy. I looked at the event page. $200 a ticket, black tie required, all proceeds going to Detroit Children's Hospital. Talia's photo was prominently featured, along with quotes about giving back to the community and supporting those who serve others. She's using charity to rebuild her image. Looks that way, and it's working. The event's sold out. That gave me an idea. A terrible, wonderful idea. Sam, how do you feel about doing some good for sick kids? I'm always up for helping kids. Why? Because we're going to that gala, and we're going to make sure it raises more money than Talia ever imagined. The plan was simple, elegant, and completely legal. I called Rebecca Martinez at Channel 7 and pitched her a follow-up story. Local hero supports ex-fiancée's charity work despite personal betrayal. She loved the angle. The bigger man, the hero who puts children above personal grudges. "We'll film you at the gala," she said. "Show you being gracious and supportive. It's perfect. There's just one condition. I want to make a speech." "What kind of speech?" "The kind that raises a lot of money for sick kids." Saturday night, the Marriott ballroom was packed with Detroit's social elite. Talia had outdone herself. Elegant decorations, a live auction, even a small orchestra. She wore a stunning black dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary, working the room like the professional she was. She spotted me the moment I walked in, her face going through a series of expressions before settling on wary confusion. I was wearing my dress uniform, the formal version firefighters wear to ceremonies and funerals. Sam, Mike, and Danny were with me, all in uniform, looking like we'd stepped out of a recruiting poster. "Julian?" She approached cautiously. "What are you doing here?" "Supporting a good cause. Children's hospital, right? I've transported a lot of kids there over the years. Figured it was time to give back." That's really nice of you. I also brought some friends who wanted to help." I gestured to the guys, who were already mingling with the crowd, telling stories about their work, making connections. "I don't understand." "You're raising money for sick kids, Talia. That's bigger than whatever happened between us. I may not like you anymore, but I respect what you're doing here." She looked like she might cry. "Julian, we don't need to do this again. Tonight's not about us." The auction was going well. A weekend in Traverse City went for $3,000, Tigers season tickets for $5,000, a week in Florida for $8,000. But I was waiting for my moment. It came when Margaret Winters, Talia's boss, took the microphone for closing remarks. "Before we end tonight's wonderful event, we have a special guest who'd like to say a few words. Please welcome Detroit Fire Department paramedic Julian Martinez." The applause was warm, genuine. These people knew my story, and they respected what I did for a living. I took the microphone and looked out at 200 of Detroit's wealthiest residents. "Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging Talia Davidson, who organized this beautiful event. Whatever our personal history, what she's done here tonight for sick children is remarkable." More applause. Talia looked surprised but grateful. "I've been a paramedic for 8 years, and I've seen what happens when families can't afford the best medical care for their children. I've held parents while they cried, wondering how they'll pay for their kids' surgery. I've watched children suffer because their families had to choose between medicine and rent." The room was completely silent now. Detroit Children's Hospital treats every child who comes through their doors, regardless of their family's ability to pay. They save lives every day, just like we try to do in the fire department. But they can only do that with support from people like you. I paused, looking directly at Brian Kellerman, who was sitting at a table near the front with some clients. "Earlier tonight, you bid on vacation packages and sports tickets. You spent money on experiences, on luxuries, on things that make life more enjoyable. And that's great. You've earned that right through your success." Brian was starting to look uncomfortable. "But I want to challenge you to think bigger. Not about what you can buy, but about what you can build, what you can create, what legacy you want to leave." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I make $48,000 a year as a paramedic. After taxes, after rent, after student loans, I don't have a lot left over. But tonight I'm donating $5,000 to Detroit Children's Hospital. Gasps echoed through the room. $5,000 was more than 10% of my annual salary. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's a lot of money for someone like me. You're right, it is. I'll be eating ramen for the next 6 months, and my truck's going to need repairs I can't afford. I looked directly at Brian again. But here's the thing about people like me. People who serve, people who save lives, people who do the work that keeps this city running. We understand that some things are more important than personal comfort. Some things are worth sacrificing for. The room was silent. So I'm challenging everyone here to match my donation. Not my percentage, I know that would be unrealistic, but my dollar amount. $5,000. Each. You could have heard a pin drop. If everyone in this room donated $5,000, we'd raise $1 million tonight. $1 million for sick children. Imagine what Detroit Children's Hospital could do with that money. Imagine how many lives we could save together. I handed the microphone back to Margaret Winters and walked back to my table. For 30 seconds, nobody moved. Then Brian Kellerman stood up. "I'll match Julian's donation," he said, his voice barely audible. Derek Morrison stood next. $5,000 from Amanda and me. $5,000, called out a woman I didn't recognize. $10,000, shouted someone from the back. Within 10 minutes, pledges were flying around the room like confetti. The final total, $1.3 million, the largest single-night fundraising total in Detroit Children's Hospital history. As the evening wound down, Talia approached me one last time. "Why?" she asked. "After everything that happened, why did you do that?" "Because it wasn't about you, Talia. It was never about you. It was about doing the right thing. I don't deserve your help." "You're right, you don't. But those kids do." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Julian, for all of it. You're a better man than I ever deserved." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm walking away." I left her standing there in her beautiful dress, in her beautiful ballroom, surrounded by her beautiful life. But for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt like I'd won something that actually mattered. 3 months later, Detroit Children's Hospital named their new emergency wing after the fundraising gala, the Martinez Family Emergency Center. Not bad for a placeholder.